All right, well, congratulations. How are you feeling?
Thanks, Amy. I feel a little sore, but I feel good mentally. I took a lot of shots, obviously, more than I needed to for sure, but we'll work on that.
Is that kind of the fight you expected to be having with him?
For sure. I didn't expect to take that many shots, but absolutely. Gafurov, very, very heavy-handed Sambo wrestling champion, but that's definitely his style. I did a little bit of studying. I actually watched one of his fights live, so I knew what he was about a little bit. Very heavy-handed guy. So, yeah, I knew what I was getting myself into for sure, but I also knew that I could take his shots and I could do some damage, and that's exactly what I did.
And he wasn't your original opponent. When you had the switch, was this one a little bit more exciting for you? Would you have rather have fought the first guy? What were your thoughts when you got the switch?
To be honest, I think that to an extent, stylistically, they're very, very similar in the sense of they're both kind of wild strikers. I think that obviously Gafurov is the much more polished wrestler and more aggressive on the ground. But then you have Moicano, who's a very, very, very good jiu-jitsu artist. You know what I mean? So very similar guys. Nonetheless, though, this is my 26th pro fight. I had 17 amateur fights. There's really not much that these guys can show me that I haven't already seen at least once or twice. So,
was there anything in there that surprised you about him?
His resiliency. I tagged him a couple times hard. I landed that head kick, and he just, I think he was hurt, obviously, but the fact that I just couldn't put him away, I gotta really dial it in and work on him on finishing these fights when I got people hurt. My last fight against Daniel Santos, I kind of went too hard. I had Daniel Santos hurt, and then I kind of used a lot of my energy to finish him. This one, as soon as I had him hurt, I literally had the thought in my head, all right, don't overdo it. Try to pick your shots, be a little bit more responsible. So now I got a little bit more experience in that category. Now I can find a better happy medium.
Can you talk to me a little bit about the headbutt? It looked like there might have even been 2 in the second round. What was going through your mind when that happened?
To be honest, I don't even think they landed, but they were coming at me, and they were just throwing me off. I was just like, what is he doing? And one of them was very, very I noticed it right away, and it didn't land, but I was like, what are you doing, guy? And obviously it's an illegal shot, but hey, you can't blame him. He's a guy making his debut. He's got a lot of clout. He's got a big following. A whole country behind him. He's ready to do anything and everything to get this win in the UFC. So, mixed with the nerves and the excitement of his debut, I can't blame him.
Was there a little bit of nerves knowing that he was? I wouldn't say he was the favorite necessarily, but it seemed like they were kind of pushing him and his story a little bit.
100%. Yeah. I mean, literally, I was in the back and. The screen showing the fights, right? In the back, I see it moves over to Dana White, and Dana White tweets, Tajikistan is ready for this guy, and then my opponent. And I was like, oh, great. They're really pushing him, And I'm sitting there like, hey, doesn't matter. I'm gonna put the hurt on him for sure.
Is there a little motivation when you see that too? Absolutely.
But at the same time, man, this game is a wild ride of emotion. So I was feeling super confident, and I'm sitting back there, and then I watch his teammate, the other guy from Tajikistan, and I just watch him absolutely put the hands on his opponent and knock him out. And I immediately was like, damn, these guys are tough, And then I reassured myself. I was like, I already knew that. I already knew he was tough. I already knew he was heavy-handed. To be honest, I think watching that fight actually made me be a little bit more on the defense. So my plan originally was to kind of be in his face no matter what and kind of pressure him a lot more than I did. But then watching that fight and watching his opponent get caught, I was just like, maybe I'm going to keep my space a little bit more. So I'm glad it kind of went in that order.
Can you talk to me a little bit about training in Thailand and how that changed you a little bit?
Yeah, let's go back a little bit, actually. Let's go back to November. I actually, up until the Daniel Santos fight, I was working full-time, 40 to 45 hours a week, training 30 to 35 hours a week, getting very little sleep. I was always sick, always injured, walking really, really chubby. And it's because my metabolism was just super slow, right, from everything going on in my life. After that Daniel Santos fight, which I found out I was fighting with an upper respiratory infection, I said, what am I doing, man? There's no need for me to fight. There's no need for me to work full-time. I'm good financially. I just need to go dive in 100%. So I quit my job. And keep in mind, at this point, it was my last fight of my contract with Daniel Santos. I didn't know whether I was going to get re-signed or not, but I took a leap of faith. I left my job. I went to Thailand for 3 months and got some really good training over there at Bang Tao, Muay Thai and MMA. Frank Hickman, man, those guys are top level trainers. You know, the jiu-jitsu coach over there, Alex Shields, and the strength and conditioning coach, Woody, they're all super top-notch guys. And it was the biggest thing that I took from Thailand, it was kind of like re-submerging myself into being a full-time athlete. And you know, training 2 to 3 times a day, doing all the recovery things that I needed to do, and then bringing those habits, those really good habits, back home and finishing camp strong at my home gym, the Minnesota Martial Arts Academy, with my head coach, Greg Nelson, my striking coach, Nat McIntyre, my jiu-jitsu coach, Andy Gran, my wrestling coach, Joseph Deshu. And it was just a really good finish to my camp, too. My main training partner, Quang, he's on the up and up. You know, I'd be surprised if within the next couple of months, you guys see him in the UFC too. So just a really good last 6 months for me, mentally, emotionally, physically, everything. So I'm ready to go. You know, I was telling a different reporter, this is my first fight on my new contract. I'm fully focused in the sport now. I'm reintroducing myself to the UFC tonight. This is John 2.0.
Are you gonna do Thailand every fight camp, you think, or is it going to be more like?
I would love to. Absolutely love to go to. They have $7 hour massages. I got 6 massages a week. You know, it's very cheap, but obviously there's the convenience of being at home too. You know, and having your family and your home coaches and I just got a brand new puppy, so we'll see how it goes. I definitely want to spend some more time in Thailand, but I also love my home team here, Minnesota Martial Arts Academy.
And when do you want to get back in there?
Quick. Especially kind of going back to being the full-time athlete. You know, I've gotten offered a lot of fights in the UFC short notice, and by short notice I mean anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks, and I've always said no. The reason I say no is because I'm always really heavy. You know, I'm always 165 plus. But now that I'm full-time, I'm training more, I'm sleeping the right amount, I'm recovering, I'm walking a lot leaner. So I'm going to be saying yes to a lot of these short notice fights and just kind of being more active in general.
Thank you.
A lot of times when people think about training places like Colorado, they look at the elevation. When you're looking at a place like Thailand, obviously the fighters and the people that are there, the skill sets, you want to be able to partake in that. But what else is it? Is it the temperature? Is it the humidity? What other aspects of Thailand really make that training beneficial?
Yeah, the humidity definitely helps. So I stayed at a hotel 3 minutes from the gym, and literally waking up, getting my coffee, getting my breakfast, and then the 3-minute walk to the gym, I was already warm for practice. So, just my muscles are always, I feel like you're less injured over there. You know, you're always warm. But also, the level of training as well. You know, they're very, very traditional Muay Thai. You know, they have 2 subsections. It's like an MMA team and then a Thai team. And you can cross-train between all of those. Bang Tao is a really cool gym where if you have a monthly membership, you can hop between the 2 classes. So I was dabbling with Muay Thai coaches and really, really working on my striking, but also going to all the jiu-jitsu and all the MMA classes with the Hickman brothers, which are, new school MMA guys. So it was a good combination of everything.
And you mentioned, I'm sorry, I don't know, you mentioned something about a chest illness or something that you were dealing with?
Just my last fight. My last fight against Daniel Santos. I don't know if you noticed the difference in cardio between that fight and this fight, but that last fight I actually I was fighting with an upper respiratory infection. And 3 weeks before that fight, I had strep throat. So I was just like, man, what am I doing? I'm just always sick, and that wasn't the only time. I was just always sick, always injured, and, just dealing with a bunch of stuff. But it was because my job was a late night shift. So I was working 45 hours full time, and I was getting done about 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning, and then trying to sleep for 3 hours, 4 hours, and going to practice at home at 9 a.m. and trying to perform at a high level. It just wasn't happening. So I'm really happy that I made the decision that I did, and now I'm full time.
I was going to say, so now you're full-time, you don't have to worry about, you're able to focus on training?
100%.
And was it immediate different that you could feel that your health, that your overall body was feeling better once you made the switch?
A little bit, yeah. So it was immediate for sure health-wise, but mentally, no. So I think that it took that trip to Thailand to kind of refocus myself. I found myself that first month after I quit my job, I was kind of still stuck in my same routine, staying up late at night, kind of, doing the bare minimum in training and stuff like that, just because I was still stuck in that same mindset. Going over to Thailand and getting that exposure to just being, not around my family, not around my friends, nothing else to do besides training, picking up those habits, and then coming back home and keeping those habits was really important for me.
And last thing for me, you mentioned a little bit about the game plan, and you talked about you definitely didn't want to get caught by any hands, but knowing that you're going in there with a world combat sambo champion, was the training just pretty much drilling that over and over and over, the type of takedowns and stuff that they would try to do?
To be honest, no. Like I'm very confident with my wrestling. I've been working with my wrestling coach Joseph Deschutes, who's a Canadian World Team member, and I feel really confident in my wrestling. And to be honest, like I know that Gafurov trains with like Merab, here in Las Vegas, and I was for a second I was just like thinking like, man, he's going to be a really good wrestler like Merab. But then I started thinking to myself like, Merab really isn't, in my opinion, that great of a wrestler. You know what he does have? He has the best gas tank in MMA. I'll tell you that for sure. And he's resilient. But on a sense of like wrestling technique, I've watched a couple of his fights, and I'm like, what are you doing, brother? Like you're, you know what I mean? But like I said, nothing against him. He is literally, I think, in my opinion, the best gas tank in all of UFC, and he's resilient as hell. So, but these guys, it doesn't matter. I have really good wrestling technique as well, and I'm very confident in my skills.
Awesome. Congrats on the victory.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
John, congrats on that win.
Thank you so much.
Tremendous performance.
Thank you.
Was it almost kind of like the perfect backstory? Like you changed your whole life for this, and then you had this kind of like fight of the night showcase. You're like, okay, you live this life now. Check this out. We're gonna throw you into the fire.
For sure. I think that there was a lot of nerves going into that for sure. A lot of pressure for me making all the life changes, and then it would have sucked making all those life changes and committing myself like I did and not getting the result that I wanted. So I'm really happy that it played out that way. But I was very confident in my skills, and I knew I was very conditioned and very ready for this fight. And at the same time too, I knew that he wasn't going to be in as good a shape as me. He took the fight on 2 weeks' notice. I know that a lot of these guys are training hard full time, but listen, there's a big difference between 2 days, 3 days training and then training for a fight. The intensity is different, the output is different, the diet is different. Everything is 100% different. So, maybe he feels slighted by that, but it was my night tonight.
I can dig it. And I'm sure a lot of fans are excited when you're talking to Amy that you will now be able to take those short notice fights if now all you're doing is strictly your career.
Yeah.
Forget that other job. We've had a little bit of a theme tonight with the point deductions. How big is that? How does that play into your mindset?
To be honest, I didn't really think it was relevant. I think that he did his best work in the second round, and I think that it actually showed that because the scorecards were 29-27. So let's say hypothetically he didn't get a point taken off that fight, it would have been 29-28. So still would have been a win my way. But yeah, it's a weird night tonight, right? You'd think it'd be Friday the 13th or something, but nope, we're good.
All right, well, whichever date it played out in your favor, and we'll to see you back in action. Congrats on the win, John.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.